So, Marco
Thanks for coming.
Matteazzi here to join us. Marco and I have probably known each other off and on for 8-9 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
We had some good party phases back in the day there, and
Some good ones and some not so good ones. Right?
everybody went through some stuff. And last year, I was going through some personal things and reached out to Marco, and he helped me get back on a path that put me in a pretty good direction for me to live the rest of my life. And he also went through some things. He's here to talk about it with us today, so pretty excited about it. So,
Did you grow up in Aldergrove?
I grew up in Abbotsford.
Okay.
Yeah.
What school? Rick Hansen? Or?
Rick Hansen, yeah. I graduated from Rick Hansen in 02.
02 graduate, 2002.
Yeah,
I think
same
I
year,
graduated
same
in
age as
03.
me
So
then.
you're
Oh, did you?
turning 30 this year?
32.
32. It's same
Oh,
age as
same
me.
as you.
Yeah.
I forgot I was the baby ahead of
you're the
year or
young
whatever.
pup,
Yeah.
I respect your elders.
Going through good times. So we spoke earlier, and yeah, you've spent some time in some correctional institutions. Where do you want to start with that?
Well, a quick rundown is I did 9 months in pre-trial at North Fraser in Poco. And then I had trial. It was quick. I pled out to a couple of charges, trafficking charges. And then I did 3 months in RRAC, which is where you get evaluated onto where you would do the rest of your time in what pen. And then I went to Matteazzi and I did the rest of my time there. I was in for just over 2 years, and then I did 2.5 years on parole.
What were all the charges that you had to go through?
Well, I got charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking 2 different times, like in my life, or just for this bit.
For this stint.
Yeah, so it was that, and then there's just a couple other possession charges, but those are the big ones.
Was there? Were you supposed to be in for more time and good behavior?
Well, they were looking for 12 years, and because I pled out, they gave me 4 years for the cocaine and 4 years for the heroin. And then because this is Canada, thank God, I was able to serve both of them at the same time, rather than one after another like I would have had to do in the States.
Fair enough.
So-
I don't get, how does that work? How like they just say,
Wow,
okay, well, you
it's
can
just-
serve 4 and 4.
It's just concurrent time, so that
Yeah.
you're basically serving
You're
time
just
for
serving
all
a
your charges at
4-year,
the same
yeah.
time. So even though I was sentenced to 8 years, I did 4 and 4
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I behaved, properly when I was inside, and I just had the get out goal in mind. I didn't want to be popular or didn't want to be something special inside. I just wanted to get out
Do
as
your
fast
time
as I
and-
could. Yeah. Well, I had met a girl right before I went in, about 3-4 months before I went in, and she kind of kept my sanity, and I always had that in my mind as my end goal, to get out and finally have a life with her. And I did. And I married her.
You married her, and you just
awesome.
you just
Yeah.
recently announced that your brother,
Yeah.
and
And both brothers, yeah.
both brothers, you guys are all fathers to be.
Fathers to be. Well, my youngest brother has a son.
Yep.
And then his wife's due the beginning of August. And then my wife is due with her first, August 17th. And then my other younger brother is due in the beginning of September.
It's pretty exciting, man.
It's pretty crazy the way things
It's cool.
can change.
Yeah, you were telling me the other week, I was talking to you on a Sunday morning, family's going to church, and
Yeah, it should
I'll
cool
crack
down
the
pretty
windows
quick here.
But sorry.
What was what was that process like? Like as you were going through, like you said, the pre-trials and all of that kind of stuff. What was going through your head? Like, what were you optimistic? Were you pessimistic of what might happen as far as your sentence?
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of time to think about it. I mean, if it was a 1 or 2 month thing, I don't know really what would have been going through my head. But I was in pretrial for 9 months, which
Yeah.
is supermax, right? Like there's no segregation. It's just supermax in pretrial. So I'm just sitting in a cell, and then I've got the little range outside my cell. So all I'm doing is sitting there thinking and eating bad food.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, at first I was stressed out, thinking, holy cow, here goes 12 years of my life, maybe more, who knows. But, before I went in, I was partying way too much, doing too much drugs, being too involved with things I didn't really want to be involved with anymore. So it was actually a pretty good chance to clear my head. But after a few months, the anxiety went away of what's going to happen. And it was just kind of like I started just to really chill out. And it was actually kind of, I don't know, if you believe that you can change and you want to change, like you can actually use the system for what it's designed, and you can actually figure your life out.
For
pretty cool.
For a chance to re-rip and make a difference.
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
And it's I think a lot of young people, when we were at the age when we used to see around at the bar,
Yeah.
friend's house or whatever, a lot of people get carried away a lot more than necessary and potentially make bad decisions. And I mean, obviously there could be consequences to time, but you never really think that's something that's gonna come down your way. Or
Yeah, you don't care about tomorrow. You're just too busy having a great time today.
yeah, that's absolutely it for sure.
Yeah.
What was Supermax like?
Well, it was just you're locked up in your cell all night. You get out at 8:00 in the morning, and you get out to basically what's a gymnasium. There's no actual outside.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gymnasium, and in one corner there's a basketball hoop, and then there's a bunch of tables, and you can play cards, and you can eat food when it comes, and that's literally all you can do.
How many was it? Like how many people were?
Well, in each unit there's about 50 guys.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's I think 10 units at North Fraser, so that's the one in Poco. So it's a pretty big facility, but it's all like everybody's locked down, and there's just nothing to do. You can read books.
Could you get visitors there?
Yeah, through glass.
Through glass.
Yeah.
How frequently were you allowed to have somebody?
They could
by?
come every day.
Oh, okay.
You could have someone come.
Did you have people
Yeah.
come pretty frequently then?
The girl I was seeing, Jaleesa, who's now my wife, she came once or twice a week, and then my mom came once a week. A couple of friends came in and seen me at first, but it's funny how quickly that fades.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Do you talk to a lot of people that you were to associate with previous to, or you kind of just done your best to?
Not really. I mean, there's old friends like that were just friends, like you, for example. Just friends that I had that I reconnected with on a purely friendship basis. But anybody that I was strictly working with back in the day, they're not part of my life anymore.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. Though,
Well, whether
right?
they've made changes or not, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
But I'm just not interested in going back down that road, right?
fair enough. Were there any kind of programs while you were inside that kind of assisted you to a process of?
In pretrial, no. In RRAC, no. But when you get to the pen, there are programs that you can do, like psych programs, and I was considered low risk because I wasn't charged with any violent crimes,
Right.
like assaults or armed robberies or anything like that. So they didn't consider me a high risk for to need programs. So when I was in, I took the opportunities to actually get my H2S ticket for drilling rigs. I got my forklift license, first aid, all the one-day courses I could. So I was able to do that. So when I got out, I was able to get a job on an oil rig right away. if I wanted it, right?
Yeah, it's good stuff to. That's good that they have programs at least for, the guys that want to do that, or for you, getting out in 2 years at least you had something that you could go to right away,
Yep.
opposed to being lost for
Yeah.
a couple months or weeks at a time. I guess that'd be.
Yeah, I mean, people without community support or people that are getting out that have really nothing to go to, I mean, I feel for them because it's tough.
That's something when we had our meeting at the Gateway of Hope that Brendan told us. It's a place that sometimes there are people that come out of prison, they don't have family left, they don't have friends
Yeah.
left, they have absolutely
Yeah.
nowhere to put their head down at night, and you're
Yeah.
going to see them arrive at a place like that, and Langley being one of the only places with a shelter, and if
Yeah.
people are from here and you kind of find your way back, it's kind of tough to decide, I guess, what you're going to end up doing. But I mean, you obviously have a pretty supportive family, and a pretty
Yeah, I'm
deep-
pretty blessed with that.
deep
I mean,
family. It was
yeah.
good for Jaleesa being there for you too. Obviously, I'm sure that
Oh yeah, she
made
kept
it
my sanity
as
many
easier
times.
as easier for you as it could, right?
Yeah, well, it gave me, like I said earlier, it gave me something to look forward to. It gave me that end goal,
Mhm.
and I just kept telling myself, just get out of here, just get out of here. I tried to avoid fights while I was in there. I tried to avoid,
Was there
just
lots of fights in
oh,
there
every day,
every
constantly.
day?
Every day.
Was it a max
It's
when
a,
you
it's a
finally
minimum
got?
max.
Yeah.
Matsqui is a minimum max, or sorry, it's a medium max. So that means there are people in max, and then it's also considered a medium. But there's, like for example, if you want to go to the gym, you go on the hour every hour. You can go, but once you're there, after 10 minutes after the hour, it locks down. So you
Okay.
can't leave the gym for an hour. So all the sections of the jail are locked at all times, other than
You kind of shift to
10
where you
minutes
want
on
to
the
go,
hour.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
So what if you ever get locked in a situation where you realize you saw some people you didn't want to be around, or I mean, I guess. What's it kind of like trying to communicate with people in there? Or, I mean, not necessarily make friends, but I mean, people that you're more
Yeah.
comfortable around.
it's pretty hard to figure out who you can trust and who you can't. I mean, really, you can't trust anyone
Yeah.
inside, but I don't know. Yeah, I got a couple of friends that to this day they still give me a call once a month or so, and just to see how I'm doing on the outside, and they're still inside. And
Do you ever head back to visit anybody?
I'm not allowed to. Not with a criminal record, right? I wouldn't be allowed to.
Fair enough.
But,
you were on parole for quite a while as well. I remember we talked about
Yeah.
meeting for
Just over 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
You're still on parole right now?
No, I got off parole last year. So
What sorts of things on parole were you limited to?
well, when I first got out on what's called day parole. So that means I was allowed to live in a halfway house. Well, I was have to live in a halfway house, but I was allowed to leave. I was allowed to go out during the day, go get a job, things like that. But
Yep.
every night when I first got out, it was 6:00 p.m. I had to be at the halfway house, and I couldn't leave till the next morning at 7 a.m.
Okay.
Over time, those kinds of things, they started to get drawn back. Like my curfew got moved to 11, then it got moved to midnight. Then I was allowed, after 1 month of absolutely no infractions, I was allowed one weekend pass.
Okay.
So I was allowed one night out for the weekend. So I'd go to my girlfriend's, I'd stay there for the night. And then over the course of a couple of months, it was 2 weekends, then it was 3 weekends, then it was every weekend, then it was most weekdays. And by the time I got off day parole, I was to the point where I was there only 2 nights a week.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So
How long did that process take you? Sorry, again, with the
that was
halfway
about
house?
6 months
6 months.
overall for day parole.
How frequently did you have to meet with a parole officer or anything there?
When I was in the halfway house, it was once a week.
Once a week.
Every time I was there, I had to see her.
Okay.
And then when I got out on full parole, it was twice a month, and then it went down to once a month.
Slow it down. Do you have contact with them now? Like any follow up after your parole?
No,
Nothing like
there's
that.
There's no award ceremony or anything for
No, I
completion.
don't mean award
Yeah.
ceremony. I just wonder, like,
Yeah.
what kind of stuff they offer in terms of.
Well, there was some social assistance that I would have been offered, but because I was able to get a construction job through contacts, like just friends that I have, I was quote unquote making too much money to qualify
For that.
So, for social assistance. Yeah, which I mean, it's hard to believe at $15 an hour, but
Yeah. Fair enough. Fuck, that's crazy, man.
What
So-
was what were some of the, if there was one thing you've seen while you were in there or witnessed, was there things you've seen that
Well,
to
one
this
thing-
day still stick with you?
one thing that really struck me is how conditioned you get to violence when you're inside. Everything's violent. Everyone speaks in a violent way, and it's just a bunch of guys, right? There's
Yeah.
no women. There's no sweetness. There's no harmony.
Mm-hmm.
There's just violence. And one time after dinner, I saw a guy get in a scrap out on the yard, and he got beat down pretty bad. And the guy just would not stop stomping on his head.
Wow.
And I'm talking straight up, like trying to kill him, stomp on his head. For sure, trying to kill him. And I'm like, there's nothing you can do. You can't go run up and stop the fight, or
Yeah.
you're going to become part of the fight. And then
Yeah.
you're going to be in lockdown. You're going to be in SEG for 3 months. And it's just, I just looked at it, didn't even really think twice, and just kept walking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's pretty fucked up. By the time I got back to my cell and I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's just crazy. I mean, at this point, I had been inside for probably a year and a half, and this guy's head was mashed potatoes. He ended up going into a coma. He's retarded for the rest of his life, mentally handicapped, and he's not ever going to be the same. And the guy that did it, he was already doing a life bit, so it didn't matter to him.
Yeah.
He went to Kent, which is a max. He went there for 2 years, and he's back in Matteazzi. Makes no difference to him. It's
Do you
just
think?
another adventure.
Do you think if you would have witnessed that in your first 2 weeks, it would have been a different?
I probably would have scared the hell out of me, right? I'd have been like, "Oh my God, what am I in here for? How did I end up in this place?" But by the time you've been in there for, like I said, a year and a half, I mean,
I guess you could get a little numb to.
I didn't think twice about it, man. And to this day, I'm thinking like, wow. Like,
Do you think if you would have seen it earlier, you would have done anything about it, or do you still think you would have just been like, "Holy fuck"?
No, I mean,
want to be
at that point, you're dealing with gangs. You're dealing with, like this guy that was stomping on his head. I'm not going to mention any gangs or anything like that, but
Nah, don't mention any gangs or names. Or
no,
anything.
no. But I'm just saying, I know he was a member of a gang, and he was like, he's just the kind of guy that you don't want to go getting involved with, or you're going to be the guy getting your head stomped the next day.
Yeah.
And everybody knew that. And I wasn't the only guy that walked by.
Yeah.
There was hundreds of us
Yeah.
walking by this situation. It's right after
There's no
dinner. The mess
guards
hall's getting
around,
let
no-
out. All the guards found them. I mean, but this all takes place over 30 seconds.
Yeah.
30,
Yeah.
45 seconds,
Somebody
so-
can only get there so fast, or
Well, exactly, right? I mean, even if you're just 500 feet away, you got enough time to put somebody down,
Wow.
So with I guess
Pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It is
well,
pretty heavy.
uh,
It's, we've had a couple people here. Craig McLean he's a mixed martial arts fighter, and we haven't done that. And it's interesting learning these experiences that people go through, because short of seeing shows on TV about jail,
Yeah.
I mean, Scared Straight or Orange is the New Black, or
Yeah.
Oz that used to be on when we were young. It's hard to really know unless you know somebody that's been inside. That
was it what you expected? Was it from what you'd seen in media or TV or movies or anything like that? How you would have thought jail was going to be? Is that what?
That's a good question. I never really had that concept asked of me before, but I mean, I guess I could say that I thought it would be worse than it was actually. But looking back, I can kind of see now that when you're in there, like I said, you get accustomed to it, right? So you don't really realize how bad it is anymore. You don't really realize, like, you could just walk around a corner and get stabbed. It's not a thought in your head because you've grown accustomed to it. So looking back, I mean, I guess I could say that, yeah, it sort of is what I thought it would be. But when I was living in there in the moment, it was kind of easy.
Do you feel like because you kept to yourself, you just tried to do your time, do your thing, that makes a huge difference?
Absolutely.
If you want to stay away from it, do you think it's actually fairly easy for guys to stay out of that kind of...
Oh, yeah. Like, you hear people say, oh, I better not go to jail. I'd get eaten alive in there. People would kill me and blah, blah, blah. Well, no. There was little guys, I'm talking like 145, 150, 160-pound guys, and just walking around and doing their own thing. And
mind their own business.
Yeah, putting their head down, mind their own business, read a book. They have some friends that they, clicked with, and that was it. They weren't trying to make a name for themselves or anything like that. And then you got other guys that are also 120 pounds, and they scared the shit out of me. Because if they said something to you and you didn't listen, you were going to be dead.
Yeah.
And they don't care.
That's wild.
Because that is their life, for life.
Yeah.
They're not looking at getting out.
Yeah.
They've got 30 years ahead of them.
They're
25.
They have to create their lifestyle in there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly, right? That is their all, right? So, yeah.
That's intense, man.
Wow.
That's intense. So you were, saying, previous to, do you mind talking about, like, what happened when you got arrested? Like, how did that come about? When was you're taken in by police, handcuffed kind of moment?
Well, I was in Abbotsford and I was dealing coke, and I was moving things all over the place, and I got this commission where I would drive some things out to Calgary and I'd make some money, and I'd do a trip once in a while and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be pretty profitable. But what happened was one of the people in my life at the time, they had gotten busted with a small amount. And instead of them doing 3 to 4 months on a possession charge, they decided to set me up. So I got set up and I got busted with a large amount. So I was supposed to head out to Calgary that night, and I had 3 units of cocaine on me. And I was getting ready to leave, and there was a mudslide in Hope, which delayed my departure by probably 3 or 4 hours. So I laid down to have a nap, and I woke up to 15 police officers
just swarming your car,
swarming my house.
Oh, your house.
I was in my house, and barricaded through the door, and guns everywhere. And
did it feel like a dream at the time?
Yeah,
like,
it was messed up, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't wake up scared. I just woke up like, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Do you see that a lot, or you see a lot of people kind of rolling over on a small charge to turn in something bigger?
Oh, big time. Why would somebody do 3 months when they can just point a finger and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
And not have a criminal record, right?
Was that something they offered you? To
Absolutely, but I wouldn't have any of it.
It's good.
So.
Yeah, you're that's not your character. I
No.
know. For as long the time I've known you, that's probably for the best for the rest of your life too.
And again, they're that 3 to 4 months that they're not wanting to do. It's probably because they're scared of what they think prison's going to be.
Exactly right.
Well, it's gonna be pretty terrifying, but at the same time, did you know when they wanted to give you 12 years that there would be an opportunity for you to get down to just 2, or?
Well, it was 4, but no. We went to trial for a couple of days, but we never ended up actually entering trial. We did what was basically your preliminaries, which is the lawyer and the Crown Counsel all negotiating and blah blah blah. And they offered me the 4 years times 2, but concurrent, so it's just 4 years. And at the time I had been in 9 months, so that time counted towards it. And I was just, at that point, like, talking with my lawyer, my counsel, I mean, I knew that if we went to trial, they had me living there. I had mail coming to the house. I had the stuff there. I mean, it was stupid to have it there, but I was only going to have it there for 3 hours. You know, I was going to leave right away. But like I said, my trip got delayed and I got ratted out on that specific day because I had it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, upon talking to my lawyer, they had a pretty open shut case, and they were going after 12 years. And my lawyer basically told me, if this goes to trial, you know, you're lucky to get off with 10.
Yeah.
And my lawyer wasn't the kind of guy that was going to sell me down the river, because, you know, I had known him for a while too. So I trusted him, and he said, you know, you can take this, you can do your 4, you can be out in maybe 2.5, 3 kind of thing. And I said, you know what, that's where I got to be. So I went for it.
So what brought that to, like, how long did that decision take you? Was that a pretty quick, when he told you that, it was like,
no, right? I thought about it overnight. I thought about it for a while. I called Jaleesa and we talked about it, and I called my mom and we talked about it, and my brothers, and we talked about it. And you know, I've been raised Christian all my life too, and you know, if you do something wrong, you pay for it, right? Mm-hmm. And I just figured, you know, I was doing this, and I did get busted red-handed doing something that if I wasn't doing it and I was tricked into it, there's no way I'd take a deal. I was innocent, but I'm not. I was guilty as guilty could be. So I pled out, and I think I made the right choice.
Yeah.
So,
well, it kind of seems like it, right? It's, I mean, we've been staying in pretty close contact, I think, for maybe, I mean, not
almost
super,
a year now,
not super close contact, but just over a year, actually.
Every day, buddy.
Did you see an end before this happened? Were you thinking of, all right, I'm going to get out of this at any point, or were
it's funny you should ask that. I was just thinking that in my head a little bit ago. When I first started dealing, it was actually because I cut my finger real bad. I cut a tendon in my hand, and I was a welder at the time, and I couldn't go to work.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna, you know, drive on a phone for a buddy of mine for, you know, 6-7 weeks, and my hand heals up, and I'll go back to work. Well, 8 years later, I'm in jail, right? But it got to a point there near the last, I'd say, probably 2 or 3 years, that I was just starting to lose it. I was just always hustling, and at that point I had started using, and I was doing coke and all day long, and to go to sleep I'd be doing oxys, and it was to the point where subconsciously I think I was looking for an out. Mm-hmm. I was looking for a way out. And when you're, you know, I don't want to use the phrase when you're that deep in the game, because it's so cliche and lame, but realistically, when you are that deep in the game, that all your contacts are also in the game, and all your friends, so-called, are also in the game, mm-hmm. you can't really just get out. And it's not because like, oh, if you get out, they'll kill you. But no, it's because somebody could phone you and say, hey, I need this. And are you going to turn down $300 with a trip across town mm-hmm. because you want to get out? No, it's $300. You're going to drive across town and make $300, which is what I now make in 2.5 days. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or 2 days. So it's just like, it's mind-boggling to think that, well, even sometimes when I was dealing, I would go back to work, and I'd really make a good effort to try not to deal drugs. And then I'd realize when I got home, I had 3 missed calls, and I went to work to make $120 after taxes, but missed out on $500 mm-hmm. because I was at work, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I was looking for an out, and I had thought to myself several times, maybe I'll get a job on an oil rig and just move away, or maybe I'll move out east with some of my mom's family or stuff like that. But that just never happened, and then what happened.
Do you think subconsciously maybe you made a mistake to get out, as far as trusting this guy that
exactly
on you?
Yeah, I was getting, well, maybe not to trust him, but just to trust anyone. Yeah. I was definitely getting sloppy, and at that point in my life, everybody knew I was a coke dealer. Mm-hmm. Like, there wasn't a single person that didn't know what Marco was doing to make money. Yeah. And that's pretty stupid. Yeah. You know, looking back, not even looking back, I knew it was stupid then. You know? So yeah, definitely subconsciously, I was being sloppy as all could be, and I was just making mistakes left, right, and center, and I was just looking to get busted.
Were you still using when you got arrested?
Oh yeah,
and
I was high when I got arrested.
How was that transition?
Oh man, well, detoxing when I was inside was rough, because there's no coming down with any meds. There's no being in a hospital. There's nothing like that. You're just
dealing with
in a nice cold cell, shaking and sweating and shaking and sweating, and then you're hot, and then you're sweating, and you're crapping your pants. Thank God the toilet's right next to my bed, right? But Yeah, it was a rough week, and then started coming out of it and started feeling better. And then I put on 32 pounds of straight fat within like 4 months. It was disgusting.
Is there lots of do you get lots of opportunity to work out when you're in there, or is it kind of harder to?
In Penn, there's actually a pretty decent gym. There's free weights and stuff like that, and anytime like you have a job that you have to go to, and if you don't do your job or you don't have a job inside, then you get locked up in your cell till 2 p.m. So if you want to get out of your cell before 2 p.m., you have a job. So I had a job. My job is I'd clean the range we lived on, and then after lunch or after 2 p.m., then you're free to do whatever you want. So if you wanted to go work out, you just wait till movement, on the hour for that 10 minutes, and you head down in the gym. So yeah, you could work out every day if you'd want.
At least having a job, I guess, would give you at least some sort of structure. I mean,
yeah, it gives you a little something that you have to do. Gives you something to
is that a little better than sitting in your cell all day? Or
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first got in, I was like, oh, I'm not getting a goddamn job. What do I need a damn job for? Yeah. And then I just got so bored. I just had to go do something. I worked in the kitchen for a little while so I could eat as much as I wanted, and I got bored of that. And then I got a range cleaning job, and it was pretty gravy, so I did that.
What's the range? Sorry, that's like
the range is like there's different sections of the jail, and there's I don't even know how many. There's probably like 150 cells in one building, but they're not all in the same area. So just down, like imagine just a hallway with cells on each side, 16 cells on one side and 16 cells on the other side, and then there's a gate in front of that hallway. That's your range.
Oh, okay.
And then there's 4 other ranges on the same floor, and there's 3 floors. So
when you got out, did you find it difficult at all not to go back in that direction, or from the,
if I didn't
the point
have,
of view you were at the beginning?
If I didn't have my wife, I would probably have gone right back into it, and not necessarily because I wanted to, but because it was easy.
Yeah.
The moment I got out, I was within a month of getting out, I was getting phone calls. Hey, are you getting back in the game? Are you doing this? We want to work with you. We want to get going again, blah, blah, blah. And it was, like I said, I mean, it would have been pretty easy money. And in my head, I'd be like, oh, I'll just do it till I get on my feet. Yeah. And then 8 years later, I'd be in jail again, right? Yeah. So yeah, no, I'd say my wife definitely kept me at a point where I just ended up getting a job and actually working that job. And having a job is 1,000 times more fulfilling than peddling something that's potentially ruining people's lives.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and
I think that's another reason why when you asked me, did I subconsciously want to get out? I think that's another reason why I definitely did, because there's no good coming out of you pushing coke and heroin down people's throats or up their noses or whatever. There's no good coming out of that. There's no positivity at the end of that job.
Yeah. That's
not building anything. So
good way to put it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What I can't even think. This is very intriguing, right? I mean, we've never really had a chance to talk about any of this or, catch up.
I've never really talked about it in depth with anyone. I mean, my wife a little here and there, and stories will come up and I'll mention things, but I've never really been, grilled, so-called.
What would you say about your experience in there? What would you say they do right? Because you always hear about all the things wrong with our criminal justice system, with our the system. What would you say they get right while you were in there?
Well, first off, being in jail is a big timeout. So you get the opportunity to lose associations if you choose to. You get the opportunity to, lose contact, seclude yourself, exactly, lose contact with the people that were giving me these phone calls so that I could go easily make $50, $30, $70, $300 all day long. Yeah. I don't talk to those people anymore. They've kind of forgotten about me overall. That's one thing that being in jail really helped, just being there. But what you asked, the criminal justice system, what did they get right? There are programs. There are, when people do come in on heroin and things like that, there are methadone programs that will help them come down easier anyways. But there are a lot of psych programs that are like, when people go through, they kind of learn how they run, how their mind works a little more. So they can learn to play the tape forwards. They can learn to break the cycle of scoring some money, getting high, and then coming down, and scoring some money and getting high and coming down, and just doing that for the rest of their lives. They can learn to break that through these programs. I thought that was really good. And like I said, though, I was never in those programs, but a couple of my cell neighbors were, and I'd like to read over their stuff to just kind of learn on my own. We had access to libraries. We had access to woodworking shops, the gym, obviously. As Matt mentioned earlier, there's definitely a lot of structure. So
yeah, do you think that I don't know how you were before, but do you you hear a lot that it helps people with discipline because you have that structure that this is what time I do this is what time I do this. Do you think that helped you?
Yeah, you have somebody bigger and more powerful that you have to answer to, right? Before I went in, I didn't have to answer to anyone. I got up at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., didn't go to bed the night before, whatever the hell I wanted to do. And, money just kept rolling in, and I just literally did whatever I wanted to do at any given moment. I went to Vegas on a Monday night on a whim, randomly, one time, because I had a couple of shots of tequila with a buddy. And one thing led to another, and I was in Vegas because I wanted to, and it didn't matter. But yeah, being inside, you got structure. You got to do your job or you're getting locked up. You can't fight or you're getting locked up. You got to eat your food. You got to continue on. You got to do the things you got to do, or it's just going to be worse, and it's going to keep getting worse until you finally start doing the things you're supposed to do. So to answer your question, yes, structure definitely helped.
How many people would you say kind of fall back into the old routine? I mean, they take their time out, but if they don't know any better, or they're not assisted psychologically, or you took the courses, you chose. You're saying without Jaleesa, you're awesome, by the way, Jaleesa, if you're ever listening to this. It's incredible. Incredible to save someone's life like this, basically. It's awesome. How many people do you see fall back into the same routine and then,
it's a really high percentage. There is a chance that I might not have gone back to dealing or done it in a different way or less, or I don't know, but I definitely say Jaleesa did keep my mind straight. And a lot of people I've noticed that were inside with me did end up reaching out to people that they hadn't reached out to in a long time. People had rekindled relationships with family members. Their community support did start to grow from when they were on the inside. Whether it was because of empty promises or because of promises they actually planned on keeping, I don't know. But I don't want to put a percentage out there, but I'd say a high percentage definitely fell right back in. When I was inside, I would see people leave. Oh, I'm getting out. It's my stat release, and I'm getting out, and I'll see you guys later, blah, blah, blah. And they would come back a month or two later, maybe 3 months, 4 months later, 40 pounds lighter and just beat up looking, and you knew what they were up to because they are not happy.
Nothing good.
And they're right back in there. And when they're inside, they're totally normal guys, just like me and you. Sit down, have a conversation, thinking straight. They're not on drugs. They're not wired on whatever, they're just regular dudes, and then they get out and they come back fried.
That's I guess part of the problem. I mean, if there's nowhere to go, or you don't know a different life, like you're saying, being in there can be the structure and timeout you need, but an unregulated freedom once you're done, the options, right? I mean, like you said, you could have easily just answered the phone call, but you're very lucky to have somebody pulling you away from that direction.
Yeah.
But
one thing that struck me was I was playing pool with an older Indian gentleman, and we were talking about how many times he'd been back, and in his adult life, he was probably 55. One of the older guys in there, not too many old guys, believe it or not, but it's about 55, and he said in his adult life, he's probably spent 40 years inside, all on different charges, all on different beefs. And I said, why do you keep doing this? Like, why do you keep coming back? I don't ever want to be here again, ever. I'd lay in my cell at night thinking to myself, fuck, I'm still here. This is stupid. Why am I still here? And he said to me,
sorry, I'm not trying to laugh.
No, it is funny. It's just like, I just couldn't believe I'm staring at these goddamn brick walls again. But he said to me, he's like, I do better inside.
He knows nothing
and
else.
That was his answer. I do better inside.
Were there more guys like that you feel like came back almost on purpose because it's all they knew? There's
an old funny saying. Well, it's not funny. I guess it's kind of funny, but to say they're doing life on the installment program.
Yeah.
They just keep coming back and coming back.
That's wild, man.
It's a vicious cycle. Like
Yeah.
they go in for say a 10-year stint, and by that time, especially now, the world's
Yeah.
changed so much in those 10 years. You don't
Yeah.
even know how to interact with people on the outside.
Well, I went
anymore.
inside with BlackBerry Curves, and I came out to iPhone 4s.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference, guys. That is a huge difference.
Yeah, man. We used to chat on
year was
BBM.
that?
Yeah,
right.
BBM, man.
What year was that? Sorry.
2011.
2011. You went
So-
in or you got out?
Went in.
You went in.
Got out
2011.
in the end of 2013.
Oh, okay. So you only
So those
ended
were
up
the 2
doing
years I was
2
in.
years
And inside.
inside.
But
Right,
that's
'cause
what
you
I'm
had the
saying. And
9
that's
months and-
And that's what I'm saying is so funny. Like how much the world changes in 2 years. Like these guys that have been in 10 years, they're coming out to internet. Like realistically.
Yeah,
You know, like,
that's even something we were talking about with our Vera that was here earlier. She's our English teacher, and when Ryan and I were in school, people weren't using phones, and now that's something that they're dealing with. And
Yeah.
such a grace in technology over such a short period. Well, I mean, I guess it would feel like a forever period of time, but
Well, when I first got out, I remember thinking to myself, holy crap, I got so much to do. Like, I have to do this. I have to do that. I got to do this. I got to go to get a job. I got to go say hi to old friends. I got to do this and whatever, right? Like, when you're inside, you're like, okay, I got to go eat.
Yeah.
was it overwhelming?
That's it.
Overwhelming
I just
getting
gotta
back
go
out.
eat. Yeah. Well, exactly. You're like, I got to do like 938 things, and I got to do them yesterday, and I had so many plans, and I got to go eat a steak because I haven't had a steak in 2 years. I haven't had a fucking orange. I need to go eat an orange. Like,
How was that for?
That
Like,
was-
what was your favorite?
What was your first
the
meal?
best?
it was a steak. Absolutely, yeah. Oh yeah, I got out to a big fat T-bone steak. For sure I did. My
Right.
brother bought it for me. He's like, you're getting a steak and some underwear. I was like, okay.
when did you really start doing a countdown? When you're,
My
I guess
wife.
you always knew your release date.
No,
Well, no, 'cause you
actually,
got out early.
because I got out on day parole, which is, most people weren't getting day parole back then, but I had so much community support, and I had had my mother at my parole meeting, and I had some of my family members write letters that I could bring to my parole meeting. So just the fact that I had so much community support and a spotless inmate record, like I didn't get caught for being in any fights or contraband or gambling or anything like that. So my record was clean, community support. I had a job lined up to go to when I got out and everything. So I was lucky enough to get day parole. I guess I said the right things in the meeting and I got day parole. So
Were you at the meeting? Then all of a sudden it was granted, and you were done.
no, I got the meeting, I got day parole, and then I got notified of my release date, which was a week later.
Wow, so that must have been a pretty.
It was the longest week of my life, man. It was the longest week I've ever lived in my life.
Just
man.
waiting for it.
I tried to sleep like all day long so it would go by faster, but I couldn't sleep.
You're just it's like kid going to Disneyland. I bet.
Yeah.
Right?
So
if
it's
you
the
could,
whole
if
world
you could
opening
talk
up.
to yourself, the year before you got caught, what advice would you
Oh
give
man,
yourself?
that's a tough question.
What would you tell yourself to try and convince you to just fucking go and get?
I'd probably just say, let's run away together.
Have a couple of shots and do the Vegas trip again.
Yeah,
With
let's go to
this one,
Vegas.
Make a one way.
Honestly, I don't know, man. I would say,
Do you think there's anything you really could have convinced yourself back then?
no, man, I was way too arrogant. And that's one thing jail broke for me, is a lot of arrogance that I had. But I don't know, perhaps I would just say, hey, you're going to crash and burn. And, people told me that back then, too. And I said, go fuck yourself. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
I'm a kamikaze pilot, man.
That's tough.
That's what it's for. I had the idea in my early 20s that in my 20s I wanted to do whatever the hell I could do with my life and just get a rip-roaring good time going on. And in my 30s, I'd start a family and have a life. And whether I wanted to or not, that's exactly what happened.
That's kind of what happened in,
Yeah.
in the
We
side.
talked about that with our moms, right?
Yeah.
Is that you gotta make the mistakes on your own.
Yeah.
You gotta figure that shit out.
Just unfortunate.
Unfortunately,
Some mistakes are a little deeper
yeah,
than.
exactly. But I'm
Yeah.
sure your mom was going through the same thing as like, what do I say? What do I say? Can I say anything, or do I just have to let it?
Well, she knew that when she raised me with as much knowledge and ability to decipher what was right and what was wrong. And she knew that me being a grown man, she had done her part, and now it's up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's told me that before. And, she might not have been happy with the decisions I made or happy with the lifestyle I led, but she didn't love me any less. That's what moms are
I
good
don't
for,
think
though,
that,
right?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Just
not
like
possible
coming
for
home and the puppy
Yeah.
seeing you walking in. Hey, they're just
Yeah.
wagging the tail and
Yeah.
happy you're there. But right on. That's awesome. has what you went through, has that helped anybody? You know, have you ever been able
maybe
to?
now it will.
Maybe now.
Yeah.
Talking about it.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess if you haven't talked about too much, or I mean, you don't have any old friends that you kind of pulled away and, you know, they saw what happened to you and got away from anything.
you know, there's a lot to be said for reaping what you sow and sowing fruits of knowledge too. Like where what I've been through in my life gives me insight and gives me the ability to realize what other people are thinking, because I've literally been in that situation before. I've been in other people's shoes because I was in those shoes in myself. So I think maybe perhaps it hasn't helped too many people now at this point, but now that I'm starting a family, literally with a kid on the way, I think I'll be able to be a better father for it. And I think I'll be able to be a better role model to my nieces and nephews for it as well. Just for having that life experience, for going down that road and seeing my teenager children getting into trouble, and I can tell them, hey, there's something you didn't know about daddy.
Yeah, that'll be
down.
Have you
I've already thought about what you're gonna say, how you're gonna explain it.
Well, you know, there's no reason to bring it up when they're young. They don't need to be going to school at 9 years old telling them my daddy's an ex-con and blah, 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 right? But yeah, I mean, if I see one of my sons or even one of my daughters getting into some trouble in their early teenage years or early 20s or whenever, you know, I can at that point sit them down and say, hey, just so you know, I do know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm not some square that's never been around the block. Mm-hmm. Let me sit you down and tell you a little bit what I've been through, and I can actually level with them on a level where I would never have otherwise been able to, because I would have just been that guy that never experienced anything in life. And
short of that, you know, short of being set up and who knows where you would be right now.
Yeah, I'd probably be doing the same thing, just another couple years closer to dead.
You know, potentially something worse could have happened to you.
Well, absolutely. There's another saying too, is when you're in that game, you're going to either end up in jail or dead. That's it.
That's a pretty serious.
And a lot of my friends ended up dead, and I ended up in jail. So really, I got lucky.
You got lucky, yeah.
Yeah, there was a pretty sensitive time there in 2008, 2009. There was, I mean, what was there, 33, 34, 40 shootings within a 3-4 month period?
Yeah, it was crazy.
All in my hometown.
It was all around here. Yeah. I remember driving to work some days going up 200th and, you know, the Tim Hortons up at the Sharks Club or Browns and just cops everywhere, things roped off. And, you know, it was wild to turn the radio on and just be curious.
Is there another shooting? And sure enough, there was, yeah.
Is this happening again today? And I bet your ass it was. It was wild for a long time there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, crazy, man. Well, what advice would you give to somebody might be in shoes like that? You know, kind of, you were previously said, you know, you kind of knew you were in a wrong place and you were looking for an out. If you could ever reach somebody that's just
take the out.
They're doing what they can and they're going home at night and really thinking deeply about it, but they get up in the morning and make a bad choice.
One thing I've learned from working out in the gym is the thing you hate doing the most in there is probably the thing you need to be doing the most.
Yeah.
The thing you absolutely hate because it's the hardest because it's your weakest point. Mm-hmm. And I've brought that into a lot of aspects of my life too. And I would say to somebody that the out might be the hardest thing you have to do.
Yeah.
But it's because it's where you're weak.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to go. You need to take the out and you need to make the choice and you need to follow through. And you need to give away your phone or hang it up or change your number, and you just need to
throw it in a river.
Step away. But you need to evaluate first what's really important, and you need, like I said, you need to follow up. You need to follow through.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
What when when cops came in and you started to realize what was happening, you're not dreaming anymore. Was there a period like? You have this perspective now where you look back and you can say like, I fucked up. I gotta take the rap for this. This is my problem. Was there a period of anger before that where you were mad at the guy that rolled on you?
Absolutely.
How long did that take before you started to realize like, fuck, this is
well, I didn't know who rolled on me at first, and I was, if I ever find out, I'm gonna kill that guy.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was in pretrial for 9 months is because it took me 9 months to plead guilty.
Oh, okay.
It didn't take me 9 months to go to trial. I could have gone to trial that week. I'm entitled to a speedy trial. I could go within 100 days.
Yeah.
But it took me 9 months to come to the point where I was able to plead guilty and just plead out and get it on with. Because when I first got arrested, I was pissed. those cops didn't have a good warrant, and I was pissed off that they broke my civil rights, catching me breaking the law. And I figured, there's sure on many different levels I was totally thrilled with my life. I'm living the dream. I do whatever I want whenever I want. I'm making 10, 15 grand a month cash. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
But
did you lose everything when it was all, I guess?
Yeah, when I got out of jail, I had $300 that I saved at about $30 every other week. That's what I got paid when I was in jail.
Oh, because you got paid for cleaning, right? They still have to pay you to do your job,
they have to pay you, but they don't have to pay you minimum
Not
wage.
much.
That's for damn sure.
Like $3
So
an hour or something?
my paychecks were $40 every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I would spend about 10 to 15 bucks at the canteen, which I could buy some Coca-Cola and some chips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the rest I just saved. I got out with
How much
just
did
under
you look
$300.
forward to buying that Coca-Cola and those chips?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was great. They were the best thing you could eat in there. Probably the most healthy too, believe it or not. The food was garbage.
Yeah.
Was it a 3 meal a day thing, or?
Yeah, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Did you share a cell with somebody, or were you on your own?
No. At the time, Matteazzi was only a single cell. But when I was in my last couple of months being there, they had just started doubling up the cells. And they're not big cells. They are 8x12s, which is half the size of this room.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's literally a bed and a shitter. And
yeah. It's a single bed with a 1-inch foam mattress.
yeah.
You do lots
Shitter
of
next to
reading?
it.
Any reading, writing?
I read over 50 books while I was in there.
Did you have a favorite? Some that reached to you while you were there?
Were
Specific?
you reading mostly fiction, or were you reading a lot?
No, I was reading all books about psychology, books about laws of success, and things like that. A friend of mine, just a couple of cells down, he had like an entire library in his cell of books that his parents had just kept sending him just to give him something to do. I guess they figured he wanted to read. He didn't read a damn book.
Really?
He had a whole library. He didn't read a single thing. So I just kept borrowing a book off of him and returning it and grabbing another one. And, with being locked down between 10 a.m. and noon every day, you're locked down for those 2 hours just because I guess that's when guards go on break or shift change or whatever they do.
Yeah.
So I'd read for those 2 hours, and in those 2 hours I'd accomplish probably a book a week.
Yeah.
And I read 52 books while I was in there.
So you're from 8 to 10 you're working, and from 12 to 2 you're working?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like my job was cleaning the range, so between 8 to 12 I'd mop the floor.
Yeah.
And then sit around and do nothing. And then between 12 and noon and 2 I'd change the garbage cans.
Yeah.
And clean the showers. And that was it.
What time? So what was your lockdown as far as lights off, lockdown?
You're locked down on your range after 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then you're locked into your cells at 10. And then you're not unlocked again till 8. So, and if an incident...
So you got lots of sleep.
Oh, yeah. I tried to sleep as much as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And make time go by.
Yeah.
Right? But, if an incident happened in the jail, too, like a couple of times somebody would get stabbed or something, and they'd find their... Not like a dead body or anything, but like they'd find the inmate stabbed up, and everybody would get locked down until they figured out who did it. And sometimes we'd be locked down for 2 weeks. We'd be in our cells 24 hours a day for 2 weeks.
And they'd just bring you food.
They'd bring you food to your door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just sit there and eat it and read a book and draw and write some letters, and that's it. Yeah.
That's wild. A long lockdown like
Yeah.
that, hey? Those must be
Well,
extended.
after 7 days, they have to legally let you out to shower. So they'd let us, it'd be like shower day. So cell 1 would get unlocked and he'd go shower, and then he'd get back.
One person at a time.
Yeah. And then he'd lock his cell, and cell 2 would get unlocked. And then
That was
they'd
probably
go out.
awesome.
Oh, that was the
Actually-
best experience ever. But the thing
I got
was,
to shower all by myself.
oh yeah. But the thing was, you had to shower within 2 or 3 minutes, or the next guy's got to wait. And then if he takes too long, the next guy's got to wait. And if they don't get done the whole range that day, the last 4 or 5 guys don't get to shower.
Did that ever
And-
happen?
Yeah, that happened a couple of times. And when we got unlocked, they were pissed.
Not very happy.
They were upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really don't get to enjoy it too
No,
much.
you got to get in there, get clean, get out.
So what are you doing now? You're still doing the oil fields?
No, the price of oil kind of shat on
Yeah.
that dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I operate equipment now. Operate excavators locally.
Oh, okay.
So I'm digging holes for basements out in Poco a lot right now.
Are you working for a company, or are you doing your own
Yeah,
thing
working
yet?
for a company. Yeah.
You want to go out on your own? And
I'd
have
like
a
to, but
business started
an
eventually?
excavator is about $150,000
Per
used.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's
Tough.
just say I'm saving my money.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will come a time where I think I'll be able to afford a mini excavator, and I'll be able to get on the road with that, and that'll be the gateway.
What do your brothers do for work? Do you guys ever think about working together, or do you guys into trades like that too?
My brothers are actually both studying real estate. My brother Merrick, he's doing his real estate license, or his realtor license, or whatever it's called. So he's looking to get into that. And Michele is studying real estate development, so he's going to UBC for that.
Right on.
Right now, Merrick sells motorhomes and RV trailers, and Michele is a venture capitalist. He raises money for projects.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's what a venture capitalist is? I've
Yeah.
used that term.
For the wedding
Yeah.
crashers say, oh, we're venture capitalists.
Yeah, venture capitalist is somebody who just raises money for an investment. Like, you could have
They're
this
almost
great
like a
idea.
promoter,
Yeah, you could
right?
have this great idea and say, "Oh, I need $3 million to make this happen," and you go to a venture capitalist, and he goes to his contacts and says, "Hey, this guy's got this idea. He needs this money. What can you do?" "Oh, I'll put up 200 grand," and then this guy puts up that, and eventually he raises the money, and done deal.
Should we turn Happy Nuts into a venture capitalist?
We'll turn it into a venture capitalist for charities.
The problem
Yeah,
is you need a
exactly.
return on your investment.
Yeah.
to be
I
able
guess
to-
no, it's hard trying to raise some money, or we
Yeah, no,
push
it's good.
an event and started the team, and we share it as much as we can, but it's
Yeah.
it's post Christmas, Valentine's Day, people are tight on cash, not working
Yeah.
and stuff, and I mean,
Well, it's a start, though.
People do what they can, but
Well, you need
all we
to-
can do is ask, and
Unfortunately, like we talked about that wow factor, you need to give like a sob story. Like, I don't mean it to sound rude, but
Yeah.
you need to have something that tugs on people's heartstrings.
Yeah.
So you post, if we were posting a video of all of these people struggling in life, I guarantee you that's going to bring more people to the page.
yeah,
It's going to also piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, you don't want to be too
Yeah, that's-
gimmicky.
I
and-
think it's just the way it is right now. People need to be wowed to pay attention.
yeah. Well, I think today we did a lot of wowing, man, and once we get these edited and posted as
Yeah.
well. I mean, there's some live listeners and whatever, but when we share some of these things and people hear and those get shared around, I think it's some really good stories. And from the guests we've had along with you today, man, it's been really good conversation and
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
pretty cool.
knowledge for sure. So,
Yeah, we've
but
had a good time.
yeah, man, we're running for time here, but it was
Really
awesome.
already?
I think
This just hour goes by like that, man.
Apparently.
That was 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like
we've
that.
had some good guests today, but I think this was the most intriguing
This is really
story, and we really
Thanks, guys.
appreciate you coming and
Learned a
sharing
lot.
this, man. We're trying to do a good thing and help people, and if your story can help some people, man, I think that'd be a really awesome thing. So
Yeah.
really
So, yeah.
appreciate
Well,
that.
for all those listeners out there, I'd just like to say that it's all the little choices in life that you make that add up to the big decisions. It's all the little things. It's giving the correct change back over the till. It's all the little tiny things on a day-to-day basis that you don't even think twice about that add up to the life you live.
Right on.
That's
That's a good thing to
it's
end on.
something we might bypass on our daily life. You're not really thinking about, but
Yeah.
that's exactly it. So, okay, man. Well, thank you
right.
very much.
So-